give some reflections on the video made by Sh Hassan Ali, if I can get this to open, that is, because I had his points written down. So now, first of all, this is my just my reflections on Sheikh Hassan Ali's video. Now, Sheikh Hassan Ali, who spoke about the second coming of Jesus, he made a kind of Facebook live, and he said he spoke about this. Now, I want to highlight that I actually I do have great respect for Sheikh Hassan Ali. I see him as a kind of senior in age, in that sense, in respect. I've met him personally on a few occasions. We've disagreed in the past as well on other issues. We've disagreed respectfully. Okay, so I remember many years back we had this whole discussion on jinn possession and stuff like this. We disagreed, one could say with zeal, but still respectfully. He still showed me a lot of respect. Look, I don't know what's in people's hearts, but I just go with the apparent. Okay, so in that sense, what I saw from him was love and respect, and he visited after that. I once drove him around, and you know, it went recently, was it last year or the year before, when Sheikh Yasir Qadi came to London. So I went down, and he was there with me that time. He met me, we had a discussion, a brief discussion with Sheikh Yasir Qadi as well. He was there as well, Sheikh Hassan Ali. And even afterwards, you know, we went to get food, very respectful, asked me to sit next to him, stuff like this, discussed with me. So I have respect for Sheikh Hassan Ali. I watched his video where he was refuting and speaking about, but once again, you know, he wasn't disrespectful. And so in that sense, I have a policy: as long as somebody's respectful to me, I will always be respectful back to them. So just some points on what he said. He brought forward a few points. You see, there was more transparency with Sheikh Hassan Ali. So he made a point very clear in saying that, look, this thing of the second coming of Jesus cannot be clearly proven from the Quran. So let's focus on the Hadith. I like that, because at least that was an honest step. And you know, and that's the truth. So okay, he highlights that, look, he goes through several hadith, and he mentions hadith, and he says that, look, he says, look, the majority of the Muslims believe that Jesus is coming back. I accept that the majority of the Muslims do believe it, but they believe it because they've been told it as stories since they were kids. Majority of the Muslims believe Ya'juj and Ma'juj have these very long ears which they go to sleep in, and they're these kind of like critter, like, I don't know, like gremlin like creatures, and most of the Muslims believe that. It doesn't make it true. There's no Sahih hadith to prove stuff like that this is what Ya'juj Ma'juj look like, these kind of gremlins with long ears, and they put one over them when they go to sleep, and they put the other one underneath them, and you know, all these kind of things, these stories that I heard as a child, and we all heard. Just because probably over 90% of Muslims probably believe that about Ya'juj and Ma'juj, it doesn't make it true. So just because Muslims believe it, but that's more so to do with them just being indoctrinated by it whilst they were young. Indoctrinated is a strong word, but they were kind of taught this mythology. He says that, look, this does come in a hadith. He quotes several hadith. Right, I'm just trying to go through some of his points here. Now the thing is, I'm not denying that these things don't come in hadith. My angle, if you watch my prelude, I would advise, if Sheikh Hassan Ali does watch this, then Sheikh, shukran for your response, first of all. And secondly, I would advise, if you do have some time, I know you're a busy person, but if you take out some time and watch my prelude video, it is on YouTube, and I explain why this is a narrative in crisis. It's not to do with the fact, is there a hadith? I know there's plenty of hadith, but the hadith have problems, and it's not just, and I will in time to come in my detailed video in the future, which will be like a course-like video, so I will dedicate several hours to everything. In that video I will show the isnadi problems, but this is more than just isnad. The issue here is that the details inside these hadith clash with Islam. Stuff like Jesus will force people to become Muslim. Jesus, when he comes, he will seal the deal. There will be no more evil left on the earth. He will be a judge. He will, animals will become vegetarians. He will break these kind of things don't make any sense. And then I understand Sh Hassan Ali said these things may be like metaphor. But then the whole thing could be a metaphor, one could argue. If you're saying everything, the breaking of the cross is a metaphor, the killing of the pig is a metaphor, the evil disappearing is a metaphor, if you say the animals becoming vegetarian are a metaphor, if you say, if you're saying everything is a metaphor, that, he will force people to become Muslim is a metaphor, then why is Jesus the only non-metaphor in that? So it doesn't make any sense. Okay. Now, you see, he highlights, I think Sheikh Hassan Ali highlights that, look, all scholars have had minority opinions. This is interesting, you see, because what Sheikh doesn't see here, minority, majority, he says that show me a scholar in the past who had just rare opinions. There's many. Let's begin with Imam Abu Hanifa. Imam Abu Hanifa in his own day and age was seen as an absolute deviant by people. This is just a fact. You just need to read their comments on him. Why? Because he had isolated opinions from everybody. If you see Ibn Hazm or other people transmitting from Abu Hanifa, they say, they'll say, he said this, وَلَمْ يَقُلْ بِهِ أَحَدٌ مِّن قَبْلَهُ فِي الْإِسْلَامِ. Nobody before him in Islam had ever said that statement. On so many statements, Abu Hanifa said that. He had his own ruling, his own ijtihad. Look, like, up until the time of Abu Hanifa, everybody believed that zakat would be given, like let's say sadaqatul fitr or zakat. You couldn't give it in money, you would give it from the actual thing, you would, obviously zakat in money would be given of money, but other things, like let's say you've got zakatul fitr or other kind of things, they must be given from, let's say, wheat or, the actual kind of staple diet. Imam Abu Hanifa said, no, you can give money, because money, at the end of the day, it's the objective. He went against the absolute reading and the consensus of all the ulama and all the Sahaba before him, but it didn't matter, because he said, look, at the end of the day, Islam is trying to help the poor. What better way to help them than to give them money, because they can use it for their own needs. You see, not so many things. Imam Abu Hanifa was the first. But yes, just because today his views have become a majority in several parts of the world, but that's to do with time, that's to do with power, positions, following, politics, sectarianism. It's to do with a lot of things. It's to do with the fact that his student Abu Yusuf becomes the supreme judge of the Muslim world and spreads the Hanafi madhab like wildfire, because he would only appoint a judge if the judge was Hanafi. So you're telling me that didn't play a role in the Hanafi madhab becoming accepted? If you read the statements of the Imams about Abu Hanifa when he died, you will be shocked. Read what Imam Ahmad ibn Hanbal had to say about him. Read what Sufyan al-Thawri, his contemporary, had to say about him. They really spiteful words. They were like, they weren't, all this they show you in these lectures, this nice and loving and lovey-dovey. They weren't like, they had that side at times, but read their words, read the criticism of Abu Hanifa by these great scholars. They rip him to shreds. They're really harsh and almost vulgar towards him. They speak of him like, they say, when he died, people were like, thank God that deviant has died. They were like really, really bitter towards him. So this is, right, so when he's saying, Sheikh Hassan Ali says, yeah, that scholars had a minority opinion at times. This minority majority is deemed by later people. It's not deemed by the people at the time. Because this is a power position. You see, you can't say, oh, looking back, that was a minority position, because that could have been a majority position if it took off. Let's say the Shia became the majority of the Muslims, then Sunnis would be deemed as deviants and a minority. If the Shia today were outnumbered the Sunnis, we would just be seen as like a deviant sect, and they would be seen as mainstream Muslims. So it's not, these are power positions. This isn't like something which, like, I'm not trying to say I don't disagree with the Shia. I do disagree with the Shia on their points. But what I'm trying to say is who deems who to be the majority minority is to do with how politics plays out and how power positions play out over time. So he asks a question, Sh Hassan Ali, did the Prophet say these things? I don't believe the Prophet said these things about Jesus coming back. I honestly don't. Now, yes, you've got plenty of hadith. But tell me something. Why are 80% almost of these hadith only through Abu Hurairah radiallahu anhu? Did you know that? That almost 80% of all these hadith to do with Jesus coming back are just through Abu Hurairah. So you know when they say we've got so many hadith, they're just all going through Abu Hurairah. And about 50% of them are just going through one person, Ibn Shihab Zuhri. So you know when they keep saying we've got so many tens and tens, oh I can't stop counting, we've got hundreds, it's the same thing. They're just going through the same person. And I will show in my detailed video. Did you know things? Look guys, here's an interesting point. Did you know, because we all know Abu Hurairah used to learn a lot from converts. He used to learn from Ka'b al-Ahbar. He used to learn from Abdullah ibn Salam. To the extent, and he used to think so highly of Abu Hurairah radiallahu anh spent a whole day at Mount Sinai. He travelled there and he studied with Ka'b al-Ahbar. He says in the hadith, he was teaching me from the Torah, I was teaching him what the Prophet used to say. Did you know there's a hadith? Check this hadith out, people. There's a hadith that Abu Hurairah transmits from this one, I believe it's in Sahih Muslim as well, but or it might, sorry, this one might be Musnad of Ahmad. But I mean, the chain at this stage is irrelevant, but it's from Abu Hurairah to the Prophet saying that the most harsh of my ummah against the Dajjal will be Bani Tamim, the tribe of Tamim. That, yeah, like, because Bani Tamim was seen as like kind of hard knocks back in the day. So they used to kind of have this thing about them that we're kind of hard knocks and stuff. And you know, in that famous poem, the guy says, وَعِزُّ النَّاسِ تَمَّ إِلَى تَمِيمِ. Dons, huh? It goes in the might of the people, it kind of completes with Tamim, because Tamma means to complete, and Tamim comes from the word Tamma. So it says, وَعِزُّ النَّاسِ تَمَّ إِلَى تَمِيمِ. And that's part of the poem. And so the thing is that, look, they had this thing that they used to think we're dons and they're really strong and stuff. So this Abu Hurairah says, I heard the Prophet say this, and this is in the books of Hadith, that they will be the strongest in fighting the Dajjal. Yet, naughty, the same Hadith, this thing is transmitted in the other books of Hadith with a chain going back to Ka'b al-Ahbar. Ka'b, who was the converted to Islam, not as a saying of the Prophet, as his saying. He says, you know, I like from the Arabs, I like Tamim, Bani Tamim. And he says that, you know, Bani Tamim, they will be the harshest against the Dajjal. You see, and you have to remember, Abu Hurairah used to sit and he would teach hadith non-stop like this, like Sardul Hadith, they call this in Arabic. Sardul Hadith. He would just go 1, 2, 3, 4, and then he would talk as well. Maybe the people writing it from him would think everything he's saying is from the Prophet. Maybe the people from them would think that. I'll tell you another one, guys. This one is going to shock you. Are you waiting for this? You naughty. Right? Check this out. You know the famous hadith about that there will be women who are dressed yet naked, and you know this famous hadith, everybody's heard it, right? And that they will be in the hellfire, and they will Jannah, paradise will be forgiven, forbidden for them, and you can smell paradise from 500 years of a journey or something. Very famous hadith, right? So this hadith is in Sahih Muslim from Abu Hurairah, that he heard the Prophet say. He heard the Prophet say that there will come a people, men who will hold on to like the tails of cows, right? And women who will be dressed yet naked. and they will be from the hellfire, and Jannah will be forbidden for them, even though you could smell it from whatever. Now, Imam Malik, you see, Imam Malik is a don, people. He brings this hadith in the Muwatta, but he stops it on Abu Hurairah. Now, people don't realize the wisdom in what Imam Malik was doing. They think, oh, he brought this as a hadith. He brings it and stops it as a statement of Abu Hurairah. Now, people say, yeah, but this sounds like a hadith. Now, it does. Until you find in the other books of hadith, like I believe Ibn Abi Shayba and other people have brought the hadith with the chain, going back to Ka'b al-Ahbar. Ka'b, this convert, who, by the way, doesn't convert in the Prophet's time. He was around in the Prophet's time, but converts in Umar's time. The chain goes back to him. He begins by saying, and I read in the Torah that, and then the exact same wording of the hadith, that a time will come when men will hold on to the tails of cows and women will be dressed yet naked, and Jannah will be forbidden for them, and you can smell Jannah from 500 years. From the Torah, he says, not from Allah and His Messenger. So look, people, yes, there's hadith. I know there's hadith, but these hadith, 80% of them are just coming through Abu Hurairah. Where are the great companions? Where is Abu Bakr? Where is Umar? Do you know there's not a single hadith about Jesus coming from Abu Bakr, Umar, Ali, Uthman, any of these people? Are you telling me the great companions never knew the Aqidah? Abu Hurairah radiallahu anhu comes to Islam in just 3 years before the Prophet passes away. Yes, he spends time with the Prophet. Yes, and he mass transmits. He non-stop transmits. And Umar radiallahu anhu told him off. Said, you know what? He's actually said, I'm going to beat you if I see you continuously transmitting like this. Because he says, you say things which I've got no idea. Where did you get this stuff from? And he himself admits learning from other people. Now, I'm not saying whether the mistake was from him or whether it's from people after him who are listening to him saying 10 things or 20 hadith. Sorry, not hadith. Let's say there's 20 things that he's teaching and they think all of them are from the Prophet, but maybe 2 of them weren't. 2 of them he picked up from Ka'b al-Ahbar or from Abdullah ibn Salam or from other people, but the people writing it just write them all as one. So anyway, I hope that makes kind of sense. Now, the other thing that Sh Hassan Ali mentions, he mentioned some principles. I'm going to skip some of these to go into, I think it's worth discussing his principles. He says, I would like to, fair play to him though, he said about ijma' and stuff, this kind of stuff is always debated and mutawatir. He does make a point in saying he feels that in mutawatir, any hadith can be made into aqidah. To correct the Shaykh, that according to the Ash'aris and the Maturidis who make up the bulk of the Sunni Muslims, that is not true. Okay, only firmly established hadith, like so many, what they do call mutawatir. You know, this discussion of mutawatir was actually an aqidah discussion first. It had nothing to do with hadith. It was Ibn Salah who kind of brings it into hadith. But these people, it was nothing to do with hadith initially. It was to do with usul al-fiqh and usul of aqidah. Right, so he says that they don't have to be mutawatir. That's not true. According to the majority of the scholars, they do have to be mutawatir. So just to correct the Shaykh, that might be his opinion. I respect that, but that's not the madhab he represents. Like the Hanafi madhab, that's not the Hanafi madhab. Right, so right, he highlights 7 or so arguments which you can sum up. He asks, look, if you reject a hadith in Bukhari, will you be consistent? Of course I will. I'll be consistent in rejecting. And he asks, what is your principles? Look, my principles are simple. I'll highlight them. To see if a hadith is valid, you check the chain. Once that's fine, then 3. These are the principles right here. As they're in the books of hadith, by the way. These are in the Mustalah al-Hadith by Ibn Hazm, by Ibn al-Jawzi, even Tadrib al-Rawi, Sayyuti. They all mention these things. That it cannot go against reason. number one. They actually put it as number one. It cannot go against the established Quran and Sunnah, and it cannot uproot a principle of Islam. That's my principle. I'll happily share my principles with you. He asked that, what are the principles and methodology? There you go, that's my methodology. And if any hadith clashes with these things, it's unacceptable. Unacceptable. He said, would you allow other people to do this? Of course. As to the common lay people, look, as I've said before in my dialogue in my lecture on the age of Aisha, common people don't understand, like they haven't studied this science. So I would say to them, if they're confused about hadith, they should speak to scholars. But if it bothers them that they feel that this hadith goes against Islam for them, in their understanding, then I would say it's safe for you to not practice that hadith. Even if you haven't consulted, but if you felt it went against your understanding of Islam, you can suspend it. Right? That's absolutely fine. And then you can seek guidance on it, and you can seek clarification. Nothing wrong with that. So if you found a hadith, for example, saying, like let's say that you found a hadith about, I don't know, something saying you can kill yourself or you can do this, or you think, I don't think, my understanding of Islam doesn't allow that. Or you find this hadith that says, oh, every time you kill a lizard, a gecko, you get all these rewards, which is in Bukhari, and by the way, and I believe it's in Muslim as well. But so every time you kill a lizard, you get all these rewards. And that hadith makes no sense, okay? Because the hadith says the reason you kill them is because the gecko, the small lizard, blew into the fire of Ibrahim alayhi salam to kind of make it heated up. You think, come on. So what would one lizard do to the fire of Ibrahim alayhi salam? And even if you did want to kill that lizard, why are you killing all these lizards? Like, I doubt it these lizards did that. And I doubt it lizards are conscious beings. Like, they don't plan and think, I'm going to get you back. Like, so why are you killing lizards? And it says if you kill the lizard in the one go, you get 100 rewards. And if you kill it in 2 goes, you get, like, I think 50 or something. And if you kill it in 3 goes, you get 10 or something. It mentions this. That hadith is made up. There's no way on earth that is a hadith. Right, so, and then this thing, you see, another thing, Sh Hassan Ali, part of his argument was scaremongering. Now, I get this, a lot of Maulanas do this. This is nothing personal to Sh Hassan Ali, who I mentioned I have great respect for. But this is just part of the trend of that Maulana trend. You see, to get the masses, they try to intimidate them. You know, how will you be on the day of judgment when you rise up amongst these people? And, you know, would you, like, you know, this kind of scaremongering, the whole deen, like, if you doubt hadith, if you doubt this hadith today, tomorrow you'll doubt the Quran. Watch. Like, these kind of things, you're scaring people. But that's not true, because look, I could show you these hadith, like let's say I showed you this gecko hadith, which is sahih. And let's say people saying, oh, you can marry a little girl because it's in Bukhari. Oh, if you deny that, then tomorrow you're going to deny the Quran. No. I could show you a hadith in Sahih Muslim that is insulting, I think, to the Prophet and to Ali. That the Prophet sent Ali to go murder somebody because the Prophet thought he was having an affair with one of his own. Apparently, according to this narration, the Prophet's slave girl, who wasn't his slave girl, was his wife. But they say his slave girl, so he wanted to kill her cousin. And then when Ali goes there, he finds out the person doesn't even have the male genitalia. Like, the person's having a bath, he gets up, he doesn't even have a private, but it's been unfortunately cut. So how could have he had an affair? So Ali kind of leaves him and says, oh, comes back and tells the Prophet, and the Prophet just says, oh, okay. What on earth is that? What on earth is that? That's utter garbage, utter rubbish. It's blasphemy. So you're telling me if people reject that today, tomorrow they're going to reject the Quran? No, of course not. They need to reject stuff like that. So Bukhari, Muslim, these are not the word of God. So I think, look, this scaremongering thing that, oh, on the day of judgment, what will you do, or where will you be, and stuff like this. Do you want to rise up tomorrow with these people or rise up with those people? Look, relax. None of this day of judgment business, right? Look, everybody is trying to attain the truth. everybody is trying to attain the truth. So I think that kind of stuff is just scaremongering, which a lot of, unfortunately, a lot of imams do that. Okay. And fair enough. Look, Sh Hassan Ali said it's his belief that Jesus will come. That's fine. That's his belief. I mean, Jesus isn't going to come, but if you want to believe in it, that's fine. It's your situation. I don't have a problem with that. I'm just showing. And he did say that, look, this is a debate about principles. And once again, that once you open up this can of worms of questioning beliefs, everything is going to fall to pieces. I think that's because of your lack of faith in our deen. That this deen is much stronger than that. By removing cobwebs, the deen is not going to fall apart. And I can guarantee you this deen is not going to fall apart. Right? So I think that this kind of scaremongering, that look, if we question this today, then tomorrow all of Islam is going to show up as weak. Then that's, I think you've got a low opinion of Islam. If not the Sheikh, but anybody who thinks that, I think they've got a low opinion of Islam. Right? So I think you need to question things. Of course you need to question things. Otherwise anybody's going to get anything past you. Somebody asked today, why are wiping the socks part of Aqidah, creed? That's because the Shia don't do it. So they just want to get back at the Shia by saying, let's do this. So really, it's got nothing to do with creed. Nothing to do with creed. But yet they've put it in the books of creed just to distinguish themselves from other groups. Right, so that was my response to Sheikh Hassan Ali. So, Jazakallah khair, Sheikh, for making that video. May Allah bless you. And there was a little, you see, I did want to say that, look, one point, that look, at the end of the day, we are all Muslims. We are all part of the majority, the Sunni thing. And I would advise that, if anything, just treat this as a difference of opinion. So when you're speaking to your followers, just please address them as this is a difference. That's all. You can say it's a minority difference, but just treat it like that. Don't treat it like, don't sectarianize it, because this has nothing to do with sects. Okay, so that's that.